So I've been thinking a lot this week about Jasper, the fire, and their loss. A lot of grieving going on there. And it got me thinking about New Orleans and the flood. How bad it got down there, all the loss and the grieving. Which got me thinking about Chicago, because I was just there for a family reunion. We took a boat trip down the river there with a guide who told us all about the architecture and started with the fire, the Chicago fire that wiped out Chicago. And the thing about Chicago is up to that point, they were the meat-packing place of the world. That's what they did. And then this fire started on the south side of the river. And anybody with any money didn't care about the south side of the river. So actually they were pretty slow to get over there to put it out because they thought there's water in between us. It's not getting to us. What they didn't realize is they'd been allowing the fat from the meatpacking had been going into the river so long that the river caught fire and jumped to the other side and burnt down all of Chicago. What happened next was extraordinary. From these ashes, they reinvented themselves. They got rid of the meatpacking, all of it. They don't do any of it today. They invited in architects from all over the world to build some of the most interesting and extraordinary buildings in the United States. And it's so diverse. They totally reinvented themselves like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And so when I think about Jasper, I think they're going to grieve. They're going to go through what they're going to go through, but then they're going to rise, or at least that is my prayer for them. New Orleans didn't. They decided to do the exact same thing they did before. And any experts you talk to said, well, they're bound to get what they got because they're doing the same thing. And that got me thinking about us and people in general. And so one of the things I started thinking about was athletes. Athletes who spend the entire first part of their lives working on one thing and one thing only, which is to be the best at whatever it is they're working on, right? We got the Olympics going on now, so it really got me thinking about this, and I started researching all these athletes who got injured, career-ending injuries. They had this dream, and then all of a sudden, that dream was gone. And what did they do next? Well, many of them didn't move on. I was shocked to find how many couldn't get past their injury and so held on to the sport in whatever way they could and are really living pretty unhappy lives. And then I came across Burt Reynolds. Anybody here ever hear of Burt Reynolds? His dream was football. And he was really good at it. Got a college scholarship. Became an All-American. Was being scouted by the pros. When one block from the side took out his knee. But he didn't give up his dream right away. He kept working on it. He says, I can make a comeback. I can make a comeback. Because he was that kind of guy, you know? And so he kept at it. And then had a car accident. Punctured his liver. destroyed his knee that they'd been rebuilding. And that was it. That was it. But instead of doing what so many other of the athletes I looked up did, he decided to be a phoenix rising from the ashes. He decided to reinvent himself. And so he went to Hollywood. He meets this other unknown dude named Clint Eastwood. The two of them become best friends, and one day they go and apply, they audition for the same part. And after the audition, which neither of them got the part, Bert is cracking up like crazy. He's laughing, and turns out Clint Eastwood does not have much of a sense of humor. He's looking at him going, what are you laughing about? And Bert goes, the director said, I have no talent at acting. Well, I can practice that. He said, you're not good looking enough. Well, obviously the director was wrong. And Bert just practiced and practiced and practiced till he became the actor that everybody here has heard of. Reinventing himself. So how many times do we get stuck and don't do that? Banging our heads against the wall, holding on, not allowing that thing that is actually in our DNA. I want to be clear with you that this is in our DNA to reinvent ourselves, to evolve, to become something new. We all have it at every day, at every stage in our lives, to be that phoenix rising from the ashes. So I am hoping that for Jasper, that they don't do what New Orleans did. They do what Chicago did. Reinvent themselves. Become better than they were before. Because that's what's possible for each and every one of us here. And I'm not saying there's not a grieving period. We all need to grieve, and that takes whatever time it takes. But at some point, we have the ability to start to rise. So one of our congregants, Al Picard, has Parkinson's. And we got together on Wednesday, and he was telling me his story, and I said, can I use that in my talk? And he said, yeah. So I got permission to share all this with you. Before he had Parkinson's, he was just this guy who was incredibly active, went out bicycling, doing this, doing that, very athletic, active guy. And then he gets Parkinson's. And I asked him, well, so what changed, what changed for you? What has evolved in you around this? And Al said to me, well, before I took all that athletic stuff for granted. Now I'm grateful for every moment of it. In fact, I'm more grateful for every moment of my life. And when I see somebody else with a disease, my compassion for them is way beyond what it was. He said in many ways, his day-to-day is happier now, that he has that for himself, because he's allowed himself to shift, to transform, to evolve. Phoenix rising from the ashes. There are other people, he was telling me about somebody else he knows who hasn't moved on, who's depressed and devastated. That's a choice. Because we all have stuff that happens in our lives that feel like we've hit a brick wall. Or am I the only one? And so we have this opportunity in this teaching to reinvent ourselves. And that doesn't always mean go do something else, but it does mean looking at what's going on right now from a new perspective, from a new inside. so that we can see what's going on here differently on the outside. That's what Al did. That's what Burt Reynolds did. And by doing that, they get to have extraordinary instead of ordinary lives. In the midst of what for others is just life ending, when it's actually not. We get to move on if we are willing, if we're willing to tap into that part of our DNA. Because I'm telling you, it's in our DNA to actually evolve, to become something new. My wife, Ash, grew up in a household that was abusive and traumatic. She'll be telling you more about that in her talks. But what I just want to say about it is the transformation into who she allowed herself to become to be, who she is now. She has supported over 1,000 women. Thousands. Using that which happened to her as a child, shifting it into something brand new, and then using it to contribute to the world. That's a transformation. That is a phoenix rising from the ashes. Oh, what? Al doesn't deserve applause? Let's hear it for him. So, many of you know, after my third divorce, I went into a cabin in the woods. But what I might not have shared, or maybe I have, but I'm going to share it again, if I did, is that it was also the end of my second attempt at a musical career. My first was in rock and roll. You can tell, right? My second, and that died, and that was flame, crash, boom, boom. Well, my second attempt happened when I was in Asheville, and the music director, I'd written all these songs, this is one of them that we just played, and they gave me a wad of cash. They said, go record these songs. I did. They went out to other centers, and and Unity churches, and I started getting phone calls going, come play. And I did, and I got some songs actually in Unity songbooks. I still get a little bit of royalties for that. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it's a recognition. They're still using my songs and stuff. And I started to build a following, and things looked like they were going really well to become one of those folks in the New Thought movement who was invited around to the different conventions and get-togethers and whatever. And I crashed and burned again. The second time. So when I went into that cabin, I had crashed and burned twice in 3 marriages. And in twice trying to go after what I thought was my biggest dream. And it was in that cabin when I began to explore that it was me holding on. And when I learned that if I'm holding on to a dream, then it's my ego mind doing it. It's not my higher self. There's this old adage, if you love something, set it free. If it comes back to you, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was. Well, that's never more true than with a dream. If you are holding on to a dream and fighting like crazy to keep it just the way it is, that is your ego, and you are getting in the way of what could be something way more extraordinary for you. And that's what I learned. That by letting go, by not holding on so tight to that which I thought was my dream and what was meant to be, something new arose. I changed, I shifted, and realized that doing something like this with you guys was way more fun. that was way more perfect for who I am. I found a perfection in myself in terms of how I express in the world that I never would have discovered had I kept being sure that my dream was about music. Now I still get to play because I like to play. But my focus is supporting you guys. My focus is growing my consciousness. My focus is kindness, compassion, awakening, like we talk about here, right? I'm there because I was willing to let go of what I was so sure was my dream. So that's what I'm inviting you to do today, is take a look at how hard are you holding on to your dreams. I'm not saying you don't have them. I'm just saying there may be dreams in you that you don't even know about. I didn't know about this. I'm sharing this with you because I didn't know. I didn't even know this was possible for me. To be up here talking with all of you the way I do. This is so much fun for me. I used to walk around all by myself having these conversations that now I got to have with people. I don't know if you're aware of this, but this planet we stand on has had 5 extinction events. An extinction event is when over 90% of all of life dies. The earth has done this 5 times. All life, whether it be trees, whatever kind of beings, all of it goes, over 90% of it. That's what they're calling an extinction event. The earth has done it 5 times. The interesting part about this is each time it's done it, it's come back in a more evolved manner. Every time there's been an extinction event, what has returned has been more evolved, higher complexity, higher knowing. So when I say to you, it's built into your DNA, this earth that you grew out of, it's really in your DNA to evolve that way. When you crash and burn, it's built into you to come back bigger and larger, more evolved, ready for something greater than you imagined before. We just think about the last event being 65 million years ago. Well, it's happened 4 times before that. And every time, something new has arisen that was never here before. And that DNA is in you. You. We have this within us. This ability to rise. Feel that for a second. Take that in. Whatever wall you've come up against, whatever time you've crashed and burned, you have within you, in your DNA, the ability to evolve, to bring forth something new. Want to do a little meditation on that? Let's do that. Get comfortable in your seats. Take a deep breath and relax. And listen to all the nature sounds in the background. That's nature calling. That's evolution calling. And imagine yourself in a path. It is the perfect path. It is your path. how it feels beneath your feet. The air, how it feels against your skin. The sounds, perfect nature sounds. And as you come to your sanctuary, it is your perfect sanctuary. How it looks, how it feels, how it smells. And in the center is a chair. It is the perfect chair. Go sit in that chair and feel the ah. Feel the ah. And from this place, imagine yourself evolving. Imagine yourself as a phoenix rising, brand new. Imagine something greater in you that then shows up in your life. Something beyond what you can imagine. Feel the extraordinariness of it. Allow yourself to really rest in the magnificence of this transformation for you. Thank yourself for taking the time to do this, for allowing the possibility of this transformation to become realized in you, to be that phoenix, that something new and exciting arises, that you are thrilled with, no matter where you are in life. This transformation is possible, right here, right now. Thank yourself for that. When you're ready, come on back into the room. Phoenix rising from the ashes. This is what's possible for Jasper and for every one of us here and for everyone yet to come. Your life has miraculous written all over it. It's in your DNA. And I know that for each and every one of you, and I love you. Thank you.